Okay, hi everyone. Just give us a minute to confirm that we are audible and visible. I don't know, looks like it's not working. 1 second.
Any technical difficulties?
Yeah, I don't know. Every time Facebook comes up with something new, like, every time it's now it's like I don't know if it's like the ticker is not ticking. Like,
No, I'm just on Facebook now. It says it's live.
is it working? Yeah, yeah. It looks like we are live, right? No, it's like I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. Then, yeah. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, depending on whatever part
I
of the
know we're
world
all
you're
different.
in. Yeah. So, yeah. So, we are continuing our discussion on chronic illness and mental health, and today we are going to talk about stigma and stereotypes related to being a chronically ill person. And today we also have with us Natalie from CCYN, and she'll be participating in the discussion. And I think Natalie, you recently wrote an article about stigma, also, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm really excited to hear your views on this. So, I think, yeah, I think like I'd like to begin with by just saying that, in my experience, like what I have felt is that the general, like interacting with my friends and family and like just people, that like even when you are just normally sick, not even like chronically sick, people attach some kind of stereotypes with you and some kind of like they believe that there's a certain way in which you have to behave and like do things. And like
Mhm.
once you're chronically ill, those assumptions never go away. Like believe that.
They're just chronic. It's like chronic stigma.
Yeah. Yeah. So like if you are behaving like a normal person, then it's like I think people find it hard to believe that you are dealing with a condition that's difficult and that's incurable. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that happens to me all the time. The next article I wrote that'll be coming out. Yeah, I talk also about that everyone tells I don't look sick or that it's strange for me. It's strange for them to think like, oh, well, you don't look pain, like you have joint pain and stuff, but you're fine walking around. And yeah, I never know what to say. Like, I don't know what disability is supposed to look like, but I guess I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can't be chronically ill and not have had like, you don't look sick, or like, are you feeling better, or just like get well soon, things like that.
Yeah.
I think there's just stigma around the word chronic. Like people just don't want to accept the fact that it actually means like lifelong.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Like
No, I think you're totally right.
yeah, like do you feel like that word somehow like makes people uncomfortable, like just to accept the fact like they are meeting somebody like who's like continuously in pain or something? Like is it because of like their own like fear or something, like feeling of discomfort?
Yeah, I think it's just that like our society we're uncomfortable with the word disability. Like we get separated since like day one from other people who are disabled, and because like we're never exposed to that, when people finally meet someone who's disabled or doesn't fit like what they think about disability, it's hard for them to like understand it. And I feel like the first reaction I always get is like, yeah, like a deep like confusion and also like a pity, which is strange for me, because it's like my life. So
Yeah, like I always hear like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear, with like it's so serious. I just end up laughing, or like through messages I just put like laughing emojis, because like it's me and it's my life.
yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know, because I say like I have chronic pain and I'm in pain all the time, but still people don't understand that I'm in pain all the time. Like, I don't know how to explain it because it just should make sense, but it's like people just can't comprehend the idea that someone is feeling pain all the time and they don't know what it feels like to basically be without pain.
Yeah, I think like there was this like I had like a friend, like an acquaintance, okay, and uh, like I explained to her that okay, I have a chronic illness, and she was like at the end of our conversation, she was like, "You will be well soon, okay." I'm like, I have a chronic illness. She's like, doesn't matter, you will be well soon. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I always like hear the like get better soon. And I think it makes sense in a way of like, like remission or like, little flare-ups I might have that might be like temporary. But the problem is like they're temporary, but they come back. Like it's like, I'll be sick for a week and it's like, yeah, I get like a week off, but then I'm back right where I started. So it is strange to hear get better soon because I never really get better or like whatever people think about better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just really uncomfortable for people because I feel bad when I put people in the situation where they're like, or like, give me a minute, I don't know what to say. Because then it's a bit like, I don't know, because like I feel bad putting them in that situation, but it is what it is. Like, I'm not going to change the truth. I think it's just people are really uncomfortable because they've never probably been faced with it before. They've never heard it before. So then they don't really know what to say in that situation.
Yeah, I think like that's the problem that like I think we have talked about this before also. Like they don't know how to behave or like what to say around someone with a chronic illness because like even though like it's like there are lots of people with chronic illnesses, right? But I don't know why this problem exists. Like even though I think everyone must know someone with a chronic illness, but still like a large section of population like people don't know in general what to say to someone with a chronic illness or like how to behave around them. It becomes like I don't know, I think it becomes unnecessarily awkward. Like
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I think another problem is that as soon as like sometimes like when you tell people, they can also begin to like walk on eggshells around you. Like either they're like if you're really close to them and stuff, that's like it's a lot easier for me to like communicate. For example, because like they're my friends, like they understand like my life. But then for other people who aren't really familiar with it, they're like really like what to say. And exactly what you said, Tanya, that like I don't know what to say. And sometimes like I have like empathy for that because like I grew up around disability, so when I became disabled, it was easier for me like to understand like that transition maybe for others because I was around that all the time. So when that situation happens, when people tell me you don't look sick, it's like I understand like it's probably not coming from a malicious place. It's just that they just never like learned about that. But at the same time, it doesn't make it okay. Like you
Yeah.
shouldn't be like going up to people and saying those things. But I have like an understanding for when it happens.
So like on saying those things, so like what things have like do you think people have said to you like let's talk about that?
I don't know, Tanya, you go.
I mean, I've just always had people say that, like, because I'm happy and I'm smiling, that, like, how can I be in pain? Or, like, how are you doing XYZ if you're in pain? I just feel all like confusion because I don't match the stereotypical image of like someone being sick in bed, doing nothing, just not functioning at all. And then it like becomes confusing for them because they don't want to, I don't think they want to doubt it because there's who would lie about it, but like they can't help but doubt it.
Yeah. No, I've gotten that before, like if you're smiling and if you're happy, like how are you sick? And yeah, it is like it does like hurt a little bit because it's like I'm like disabled all the time and I'm going to be disabled forever. So like yeah, like it hurts when people say that. It's like that suggests that if you have a disability, you can't be happy. And I feel like that's like a really like deeply rooted stereotype like in our society that like disability should be associated with something like that should be sad, you know.
Yeah, like last time also we talked to like basically what are we going to do? Be in bed and cry all day. Like, yeah, not live our life. Like that can't happen. And yeah, like we spend a lot of energy in like just preparing ourselves for public life, and people just judge based on that. Okay, like they are behaving so well, like they are able to cope up with everything. So like it can't be that they are sick. Like they can't just sorry, it can't be like they are sick or like they are chronically or they're facing such a problem. Yeah.
Yeah. I've noticed like with most people, it goes one of two ways. One way being that they're like kind of doubting it, like, how can you be so ill and be so much in pain, but you're doing this? Or it goes to the other extreme where it's like, oh my God, like, you must not be able to do anything. Like, I feel so bad for you. And like, if I do anything, they're like, oh my God, you're so strong. Like, you're the bravest person, which is like,
Yeah.
it's sweet, but then it's like putting me on a pedestal, which I don't think is necessary because like there's so many people out there which you deal with chronic health conditions or are disabled, and it's nice to have that kind of acknowledgement that okay, like I suffer but I'm still doing this. But like when people like kind of pity, then it's a bit like awkward as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's actually, if you have a disability, that you automatically need to be like an advocate and like
Yeah.
educate people and like be this like super strong like warrior, and that, you know, like you're like incredible just by doing the bare minimum. And in a way, like, you know, like I do like acknowledge like, yeah, like getting out of bed in the morning for me sometimes when I'm in pain, yeah, that's an accomplishment. And yeah, I have strength, but you know, like it's not something that, you know, we should be like, you know, broadcasting to the world is something incredible because that is like my life, you know. And I like, it's not me being like, not just me being like strong, but that's like my daily life. If I didn't do that, like I wouldn't be like able to do the things I wanted to do. Yeah.
Yeah, like for me, the problem with that narrative of this inspiration and thing is like obviously like we need stories, like people need stories like of like people going through pain and struggle and rising above all those things to like
Mhm.
it motivates people. But when you see that
Yeah.
lot many people are in pain or they're having to do those things, then definitely something is wrong. You can't say that okay,
Mhm.
all of you are inspiring, like continue, like you can't just leave the situation like that. Like when somebody says to me like I'm inspiring or like whatever, then like what I want to say is like you should like learn about why it's the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mhm.
like I said, like we need these stories, but then if a lot of people are going through bad experiences, the similar then clearly there is something wrong with that narrative. Like there is something wrong because of which a lot of people are having to suffer. Like it shouldn't be that way, right? Like if it
Mhm.
would be a different issue, let's say like domestic violence. Okay, like if like there's one woman who like fought all that and like rose above, then like it's an inspiration. If like hundreds of women are having to do that thing, then clearly there's a problem, right? Like you have to address the
Mhm.
like bigger issues. So like I think that's like my problem with this inspiration thing is that like people don't understand the issue deeper, and like just on the face of it, okay, like you're brave, you're inspiring, and then that's it. Like khatam. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with Natalie, like with what she said. Like, this is gonna sound like a really weird like analogy, but it's kind of like when you go to the zoo and you just look at an animal and you just kind of walk away.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you appreciate it and you like fascinated, you might say a few comments, but then you don't go a step further to, like kind of thing. Like for example, if it's endangered, like kind of go to the deeper root of the problem. Like it's kind of like people are like, oh yeah, there's people with disabilities who advocate, amazing, wow. Um, let's move on. And they don't want to
Yeah.
touch into like the actual kind of issues which are affecting us, which is why we're speaking out about it.
Yeah, yeah. You know what is a great example of this? Like, for example, like in high school, I didn't have accommodations, and like Nikhil, like you understand, accommodation. And so, and like I went through like high school, like living with my chronic illness, like with like, like the only support I had was like a small doctor's note that said I could go to the bathroom, but I really couldn't because I had to be in class. And so, like, like it just like sucked like completely. And to like hear that, like, oh yeah, I'm like strong because like I didn't have accommodations and like I still, like went to, like I went to university and like all this stuff. And it's like, well, strong is just like, like I didn't have like the help like that I like always needed, and like that's like a problem. Like, it wasn't because like I like strong and I overcame, the system. It's that like, oh well, we need to change the system so that like, children, is they're not like, I shouldn't have been worried about like, like just my health, and I couldn't worry about like school. I should have been receiving like the aid, but that doesn't happen. So yeah, no, I yeah, I can see like what you're saying, Nikhil, completely.
Yeah, last time we talked about this, and like it's just like there should be a level playing field. I think that's what we came to the conclusion. Like I think even Tanya and like me also, like we didn't have this accommodation. Instead of saying that we are brave, like just try to improve the situation. So like there
Yeah.
should not be another story like this, right? Like how many inspirational stories do you want?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like I've noticed one thing, even like my friends which do it, they are like, you're so brave, you've overcome everything. Which I really, really appreciate. But like when I'm saying like I'm not receiving the support I should, that I'm entitled to, then they're like, oh, don't worry, you're like strong enough, you've overcome it already, like you can just overcome it again. Which yeah, I'm strong enough because I've had to, but that doesn't mean that the problem's not there. It's not like I just have to just deal with it because it's not available.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And I think like it should be more so like, and I think I always respond like better when someone tells me like I guess like that they understand like the situation like is painful, and like it's okay to say like something like sucks. Like I actually like when people are just like, you know what, like this really sucks and this is horrible, and I'm going to do what I can to change it. And like I like admire that, you're like speaking like honestly with me, and like I do think you're strong, but like I'm angry that you had to be forcefully strong. Like I think that could be worded a lot better, because then you're acknowledging like the reason like, you have to be strong is because there are barriers that like society has put for you that you are forced to overcome, and if you don't, like you can't live the life you want to.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like people should like acknowledge that there are problems. Like I have this guy I know in like right now in college, and like he was one of the first people I told like about my condition to, and he's like, okay, like I'm like amazed and all this thing, but like when I talk to him about like why healthcare in India is bad, he's like, it's okay, like it will get better with time, like
Yeah.
not taking me seriously. And that's when I like get angry. Like what is the use of me like admiring you when you like don't believe what I say, or like when we don't acknowledge that okay, this is a problem and like things need to be changed. Like it's not good enough that you just like use me as some like role model for something, and like I don't like,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I think people are kind of disassociated with the idea that they can become chronically ill at any point of their life. Like we weren't born with these conditions. Like it just came to us like randomly once and it never went away. And like I try and say to people like, like it's scary, life is scary, you can do everything right and still end up being chronically ill. Um, but I feel like people don't put themselves in that situation and think like, it could happen to me, it could happen to someone I love, it could happen to friends or family. And maybe they would respond differently and kind of see it differently. Um, but yeah, it's just the fact that I get it. No one wants to think about it. Like who would want to think about it? But I think it's knowing that we haven't done anything to have the conditions we have. Um, there's nothing wrong with like my parents that I have this condition. I haven't done anything to do it. So it's kind of like it just happened by chance. And
Mhm.
it's just like that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and I don't know, I forgot. I was gonna say something, but I forgot. Okay, what was I gonna say? I don't know, I forgot.
I can go, Nikhil, if you want while you remember.
Yeah, actually, like I was going to talk about that same thing that, like, yeah, like there's a problem, and like you can't just ignore it. Like, if lots of people are like, okay, like if it's uncomfortable, you can't just ignore it. Like I think like
Mhm.
even right now with the pandemic and everything, and like some people just choose to ignore the problems that others are facing because it's like more
Mhm.
comfortable for them to live like that. Like people often say
Yeah.
that if you talk a lot about uncomfortable things, then you are negative or something like that. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, that's what needs
that's
to
a problem.
change.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm. Yeah, you're totally right about the negative part. Like if you're constantly talking about uncomfortable things and how like the world really is, like you're automatically so like, oh, well, you don't think on the bright side, or you're not thinking. It's like, no, like you're right. I'm not thinking positively. I'm thinking realistically because this is toxic,
exactly.
and we need to acknowledge that. Like, just we can't just say people are strong without actively like help them, because like, and you're so like right, Tanya. Like it's not like up in the morning and had like my first like couple of symptoms. It wasn't like I did something like I mean, yeah, I just think that's funny because like I didn't like do anything. I wasn't like I ate one certain type of chips and then bam, all of a sudden I woke up with colds. So yeah, no, like I totally see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. And like Tanya, like what other kind of like stigma stereotype things have been said to you?
Um, I mean, obviously, ageism is a
Hmm.
really big one. Like
Yeah.
the three of us, we're quite young, and it's just that stereotype that you have to be a certain age to even kind of qualify for like to be chronically
Mhm.
ill, which doesn't make sense. Um, and I think it's so detrimental because that's why so many young people go without diagnosis for years and like
Mhm.
decades,
Yeah.
and only maybe get attention when it's that bad that they have to get medical
Mhm.
attention. Um, and it's taking away such a necessary part of our life by not personally not receiving the support we should, but also not just being acknowledged that this person is young and they do have this condition and that's okay, and you can still enjoy your life the way you want to. um and I think it's just it's obviously comforting like talking to you guys and finding other young people, but it's just a common trend that everyone kind of always hears that like, oh, you're too young to like be suffering.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think like this goes back to what we're discussing, like how a ill person should look like. Like
Mm-hmm.
even with
Yeah.
sickness, like you have to be old and frail and like weak, and then only like that's what sickness is. And yeah, like you have
Mhm.
to be of certain age. And I think like what we are taught about health and all those things, like in your youth you are supposed to do these things, and like when you are old you'll be with sickness, and I think that's an issue. Yeah, like, and I think like that is also one reason why like people can't comprehend, because like it is like this thing about health, like it's not like taught in schools or whatever, or like not many people have this idea that like anyone can be sick, like even a child, or like any age, in any age a person can be sick and like have like a sickness, something like a chronic illness. So like I think
Yeah.
that's why people of our age also are like uncomfortable thinking about that thing, that this person is young like us, and like even but yet like they are not behaving like us, and like they are sick, and they say that they can't do these things which are like normal for.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the discomfort comes from like the fact, like I think it's uncomfortable when I didn't cause my illness, and even if I did, well, that really wouldn't be anyone else's business. But yeah, like I think it's I think it's hard for people to think about that because it's like, well, this person didn't do anything and they're still sick. Like, that's weird. That shouldn't happen. Like, why is that happening? Like, could that happen to me? Or, like that thought is like scary for people. And I think that's where the discomfort comes from.
Yeah, I think like this might be a bad analogy, but like I don't know, like I think maybe like it's uncomfortable for people to think that like even though we did everything correct, like things can go wrong with us, or like
Mhm.
maybe they see it like some kind of like punishment or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like even though we
Yeah.
did everything right, instead of like getting a reward, we are getting somehow like punished or something like that. And I think that
Yeah.
is like very uncomfortable for like people to come to terms with that this kind of thing can happen even if you do everything right. And yeah, I think in general like people want to stay positive and not realistic. So I think like they will just reject the idea that even, like this person must have done something wrong. Like they want to find a cause. Like we always as humans also, like we always want to find a reason for everything, right? Like something must have happened, that's why this
Mhm.
happened, like something they must have done. But
Mhm.
yeah, like the
Yeah.
reality is like it can happen, like the like that's how nature works, and that's how the world is. Like even though you didn't do anything, like you can have a chronic illness or some other kind of thing also. Like even though like you studied all semester, like on the final, like you can, like things can go wrong,
Yeah,
right?
you
So
can still fail. Yeah, I know. I fail like so much stuff, and I study so much. That's a really great. That's a really good person. But yeah, no, I think that's what changed. It's like I do think it's like a failure, like or a mistake, like in your part. To have like a chronic illness, like you had to do something in order to cause it, and that's what needs to change. And yeah, like I like something I've been trying to like promote and really encourage is like this like going away from like this positivity and looking for like a peace or like a balance. We should acknowledge the positive, but we can't acknowledge it without also acknowledging the negative. Like I said before, like you can be strong, like, and we're strong for overcoming what we have. But like the negative is that we had to overcome, those obstacles. So I think that in order to like navigate, like talking about chronic illness and disability, like that is, I think that's like the best path to take.
Yeah, I think the concept of karma with in relation to chronic illness is like really kind of upsetting because then it kind of makes you believe like, okay, I might have done something. And then when people believe in like past lives, and they're like, okay, like in my past life, I must have done this.
yeah, yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know, like it's isolating. And like you said, it's not about looking at the positive, it's about accepting what there is. And I think that's why so many of us struggle with the acceptance of living with chronic illness, because it just feels like everyone wants us to give them a justification or like a reason or an explanation for things we can't even explain. Um, and even though we accept that, okay, there's nothing I've done, there's no way I can explain it, society makes you feel like you still owe them an explanation.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think like even in the beginning, like I think like when you get diagnosed with chronic illness, like it's unfair, right? Like we feel like I haven't done anything, why is this happening to me?
Mhm.
And yeah, like it takes some time for us to accept that. And I think yeah, like yeah, it's like but like in general what I think is like there's this tendency to just like reject bad experiences, like whatever bad is happening around like you just like it feels uncomfortable because then they have to take action, right? I think I think that's why like people don't want to like see all, because then like you have to like I think nobody wants that responsibility. And like when we say that okay we want these things, then I think like nobody wants that responsibility because it's hard work, like yeah. And then that's why like people just want to like stay away from all of this and like not think about all these things, because I think like then like it becomes their moral responsibility to like make things fair for us. And I think like they like I think that's like difficult for people to deal with, that okay, I have a responsibility towards ensuring that okay, like things should be fair, or at least acknowledging and like trying to improve things or speaking up for them.
Mhm. Yeah, no. I totally can see that. Like it's very intimidating to like hear someone's story and then like want to like advocate for them, but then actually going forward with that advocating is, yeah, it's like intimidating because like you don't really like know like what pathway to do. And yeah, like I think that like idea needs to change, you know, like I feel like right now, like sometimes patient advocacy can kind of feel like, oh, we have like our patient advocates, you know, and then everybody else who's advocating, like, well, like we can be there and we can listen, and like, you know, either like that's bad or that's good, whatever. But I think what needs to happen is that like it should be like a joint effort, you know, we can work together. Like, you know, we can have patient advocates who are like always like speaking out and stuff. And we can also have people who maybe are not actively speaking up, but like actively changing like in their day to day, like in their like or in their like world or in their like neighborhood, their community, whatever, like making sure that all they can't like take those steps, you know, on like a crazy like worldwide scale, they can do it with like the people around them. And I think that's what's intimidating, because when you hear about advocacy, you're thinking about like the whole world, when like it all starts by just like impacting those around you.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's such an individual level kind of, I guess, moral responsibility. All it is like, you know, you don't have to go out of your way. You just have to kind of
Yeah.
understand that there are things you don't fully understand and you can't fully understand. That's okay. And, you know, I guess it's like we're not even asking for necessarily solutions for the problems when we're talking to like friends or family. But we just want to be heard, and we just want to be like, we want our feelings to be validated.
Validate. Yeah.
Um, and it's like, you know, you don't have to do anything amazing. You just have to not dismiss it.
I
Exactly.
think like with other things, like with other issues that arise, like there are patient advocates, and like you don't need to even join like do like have
Yeah.
banners or something, or like participate in a rally or something. Like you just like,
Mhm.
I think yeah, like around ourselves, like we just want our experiences to be validated and to be told that okay, what you're asking for is like, it's just like, it's not something that's like you should be denied. Like that's all I think that we're asking for, at least from our immediate, you know, like family and friends. And yeah, like when we like patient advocates like who are already, you know, like advocating for like better policies or stuff like that, like just support them, like just like admit the validity of their demands, or like admit the validity of whatever they're asking for. Because I think like that's enough. Like it's not like you have to like do something big, but yeah, I think that's
Mhm.
just enough. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I think that I don't know. That's what like when anytime like someone just like acknowledges or validates my situation, it's just the best feeling in the world. That's why I always say like that. Yeah, it's okay to say that something sucks, because it's very validating to hear someone tell you that it's not just like, you know, for example, like with having like an invisible disability, you know, you can't like there's no physical like characteristics to that like tell other people that you're disabled according to like their stereotype that they think about disability. And so like your whole life, like you go being told like certain things are in your head, or that for example, like I have an anxiety disorder, so that's difficult with my dealing with my Crohn's, because there's certain symptoms of like my anxiety or my Crohn's that can manifest and be like one or the other. And then like being told like it's just my anxiety and that I'm not feeling any symptoms because I have that diagnosis, it's very invalidating. So to hear someone just tell me that that sucks and that it's real, it's like the most like liberating thing, because it makes me feel like then it is like happening to me and it's real, and someone is like willing to like acknowledge like just like that that small action just means the world.
Yeah, like I know we said about you know, people saying like I don't know what to say. I appreciate that as well. Like someone's being honest with
Mm-hmm.
me. They're not trying to say like, don't worry, everything will be fine. They're not, they're
Yeah.
just being honest and transparent with me. And like the thing is, I automatically expect that people are either going to say, it's, I feel really bad for you, or I don't know what to say.
Mhm.
And to be honest, that comforts me the most, because I know that they're being honest and like genuine. Because we know as well, like, we don't expect people to be educated on this. Like, I didn't even know what fibromyalgia, EDS was before I started getting symptoms. But it's just like someone is not trying to kind of fix your problem, because we know there's no solution to it. It's just like, I guess, just know and be okay with it.
Yeah, and like about that thing, like I think like almost all of us like must have once heard that like it's all in your head or something like that. Like even if like it's if not all of it is in your head, like at least for me, what used to happen was like I always used to doubt about like the severity of my symptoms. Like, is the pain really that bad, or like just like I am responding badly to it, or like
Yeah.
is it really like that bad, or like it's just me acting like I don't know, irrational or something like that. And that used to, I think, like that used to really hurt me, like because like yeah, like somehow it gives that feeling that okay, uh like you are like I am at fault somehow, like I have to better, like I have to
Mhm.
fix this thing, and like yeah, I am weak, and like all these like feelings of self-worth, like that would decrease. And like that ability to like you know uh, bear the symptoms and everything like that used to decrease a lot. Because what used to happen was like when I used to think that okay, maybe like I am responding, then that used to like make me more irritated, frustrated, and then I used to like I don't know, like it was really like it's really difficult to go through all of like like to convince yourself that okay, like this, like it's the disease and not you. Like it's really difficult to
Yeah.
convince yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and yeah, I think that stereotype needs to change. Like the fact that people with disabilities have to be actively doing something to like change their life, or doing something to like reverse that disability, even, or like cure it, or like treat it, or like stuff. And the reality is like no one is obligated to do that, and those types of things shouldn't be said. People shouldn't feel like they need to like take away something, a part of their identity. Like it's okay, like if we're not like being like advocates, it's okay if we're not like speaking out, because that is no one's responsibility. And I feel like if we change that belief about disability, then we can also change like the belief that people have to know what to say. Like of course, like certain things like hurt when people say them, but I don't think that they are like bad people or malicious, because I understand there's some things that I don't understand, and disabilities I don't understand. Someone says something like incorrect, or like something that I find like offensive, it's like okay, because like I can just like tell them like, hey, this isn't okay. And just I think all that we're asking to is just for that person to have an open mind and acknowledge like, okay, that's not okay, so you know what, I'm not going to say that again. Like it's that like simple, like you just educate with someone and then you walk away. There's no like, I don't believe there is like a malicious intent when people say that, but I do hope that they have that open mind, so that they like recognize it and then actively change it. That's the important part.
Yeah, that's why like that was awkward when it's like I'm chronically ill. No, you will be okay. No, I'm chronically. No, you will be okay. Just don't like.
Yeah,
It would be like just don't say the word chronically ill. Like you will be okay. Like, just breathe
yeah.
and you'll be okay.
I mean, for me, I feel like I it's hard for maybe close the people close to me, like when I'm frustrated. Because the thing is, I'm not frustrated because of my illness. I'm not frustrated because I'm doing everything I can, and there's nothing more that I need to do. Like I'm taking care of myself, I'm doing all the right things. What I get frustrated is when the people around me, or like society in general, doesn't do the things which would help. Like even just someone being understanding or not like joking about it.
Yeah.
Even, or like even once you said like, oh, by the way, like when you said this, like it was kind of a bit like insensitive, and they still then do it. For me, the frustration kind of from my chronic illness comes from there. Like I'm at a point where I've accepted and I love it. Like my condition is part of who I am. I wouldn't have it. I
Mhm.
wouldn't be who I am without it. But the only time I get frustrated in relation to it is like how other people kind of perceive me and like treat um me because of it.
Yeah, that goes back to, like that stereotype, that, yeah, people with disabilities should be like actively changing that part of their identity. And yeah, I think the part like that's most important of like what you said, Tanya, is like that reinforcement of doing like behavior or saying like something that is inappropriate in regards to like disability is not okay. Like, we should be like actively listen to disabled voices, and when something is like not okay, like listen to them and acknowledge that, yeah, that was inappropriate and that is not okay. And I think another important thing is like just like consent. Like I like to make dark humor like jokes about my disability because I do think some parts are funny, and like I always joke about things like that. But like, does it mean that I feel comfortable if someone else who doesn't have my
Yeah.
disability starts saying that? No, that is very uncomfortable for me because I can't tell if they're just like, like joking, like, or if they're actually serious, and that what they're joking at is they have some like stereotype about disability, and so that I feel very deeply uncomfortable. But it is so easy to just be like, hey, is it okay if I joke about this? Like, I just thought about something. I feel like it might be funny. And then I'm like, okay, what is it? And then they tell me, I'm like, oh yeah, that is funny, and it's that like easy. And it's like in that way, like I know, like, it was just like it's okay to just like ask someone, and then if you don't want about it, then that's okay too. But I think we need to be, or people without disabilities like should be comfortable and just like asking, like, hey, like, is this okay? And then if it's not, then just move on with your life. Don't do that, or ask someone else like for their opinion.
No, like I am guilty of like deliberately making people uncomfortable and like
Me too.
enjoying that kind of thing. I don't know, that's kind of sadistic.
No, that, well, I mean, you should be able to like
Yeah.
be able to do whatever you want about your disability. You should be able to like make jokes because it's your identity, and you can do whatever you want in regards to your identity. So yeah, it is kind of like, yeah, it is kind of funny. Like, sometimes like I don't think I go out of my way to make people uncomfortable, but sometimes like I will like say certain things. Like, for example, this is a long time ago when and first like going through the process of getting diagnosed with IBD. I was at the pharmacy, and this old lady, and she was getting the colonoscopy prep, like, that big like jug and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, I remember those days. And she just looked at me and like smiled, and then like was really confused after. And yeah, I'm not sure why I did that, but I think it's just like it was like my attempt of getting awareness, but it was just like manifested in a way like I made it as like more like I guess like a joke, because that was what I needed in the moment, and that is okay, like
Yeah, I think like even like I did it deliberately because like it seemed funny to me. Like, yeah, like yeah, it's like I just laugh and inside. Okay.
It comes naturally though. Like
Yeah, it
sometimes
comes
people
naturally sometimes.
say,
yeah.
yeah, sometimes people say stuff. I just like drop like, oh, wish I could relate, and then I laugh, and they just like stop, like, oh shit, sorry. But for me, it's just like it's my way of like coping, and I think for a lot of us, it's our way of coping, um,
Yeah.
and that's okay. But like you said, unsolicited advice is like really not welcome. Like, please do not ask me if I've tried yoga or if I've tried like meditation. Like,
Yeah.
I have, and if it was a cure, then I would be doing it every second. But it's just like, just be like, oh, is it okay if I like suggest something? And if you say yes, then go ahead. But if I say no, then just leave it at that. Like, don't be offended.
Mhm.
But sometimes I just
Yeah.
don't want to hear stuff.
Yeah, actually, like
Yeah.
I had a college junior like who really like did this like nicely. Like she was like, okay, like can I suggest you something? Or like can he she was like, can I ask you something? and like it might be
Yeah.
like offensive to you if it's then just tell me. And then she was like, "Yeah, did you like I have heard about these things, so like is it possible that you can get some relief there or something like that?" Like she did that very sensitively, and I really like that. Like, and instead
Yeah.
of like just shoving that advice on on you, and then like just you know like pushing you for that, no, you gotta try this, like you have to try this thing or that thing. And
Yeah.
like even like doctors, like you have to meet that doctor or like
Mhm.
something like that, which like people really push for.
Yeah. 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 That definitely needs to be changed. I talked about this one, the essential oils thing. That all the time, and it is so that's probably my biggest pet peeve is when people start telling me that some essential oil is going to cure my joint pain, or that what else do I get? Oh yeah, that it's my fault for I've gotten that a lot, that it's my I cause my Crohn's because I eat bad, and I ate one too many like Big Macs or one too many like McNugget meals or something, and then it just there was that line I crossed and I got Crohn's. But yeah, I really get bothered by that, and I think the way that your friend approached it is like that's like the book like way I think to approach someone and ask them, because like if someone like said it to me like that, like because it then I would feel that they genuinely like had a
Yeah.
concern for me and wanted to help me, unlike just by just going straight to it like you should be doing this. Then I find, yeah, that is like very like offensive to me, and it hurts me like a lot, because it makes me feel like then, oh yeah, it's my fault because I'm not doing enough somehow. And that like I should be like doing what they suggest.
Even like with food, like everybody's eating the same food, right? Like,
I
why are
know.
you even
Yeah.
saying that? Like you are eating
Yeah,
what I'm eating.
I don't know.
Yeah, like I don't
Yeah,
get this.
I have no idea.
Yeah, like I'm eating what you are eating. Like why are you even saying that? Like because of that it happened. Like you are eating the same food. Like it's not like you are eating some like alien food or something like that. That like I'm not eating. I don't know why people like think about food like that. Like all of us are eating the same food. Like yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like one thing I hate is when I don't know, like I feel like sometimes people like think I'm just lying or making up excuses when I say like yoga doesn't work. Like I hate it when people just like bombard me with questions like why doesn't it work? Have you tried? Like have you tried it this way? Have you
or
tried it that
yeah, this
way?
form of yoga versus that form of yoga.
Yeah. And then it's just like, and then it feels like I have to keep explaining why these things don't work and why they don't help me. But then I'm like, is this person thinking I'm just like lazy and I'm not even trying to help myself? But it's like, I don't know, like, it just annoys me because it upsets me because it feels like the other person's kind of like being like not suspicious, but like he's doubting it. And then
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I feel like I have to like defend myself for something I shouldn't have to.
Yeah, yeah. And I think another thing too, that it's not just people who are non-disabled, but it's also people who are also disabled. This happens too. Actually, it probably happens more from, I think, like in my case, at least online, not so much in
Yeah.
person, but other people with IBD, for example, will claim like certain cures and stuff. I see that a lot. And that is something that needs to be changed, because, there is no cure to IBD. But even if there was, like, if someone is like also like has your same disability, it's not your job. It wouldn't be like my job to go and forth and say like this worked for me, so it has to work for you, because that's not true. And like it's funny you brought up the yoga thing, because I found that yoga, like I do think it does decrease like my joint pain, but I wouldn't go up to someone with my same disability or not the same and be like, you know what, you're doing it wrong, because it worked for me, so it should work for you. And like, you can't like say those things, because it's just not true.
Yeah, I think like what I'd like to say like is like everyone who gets a chronic illness, like it takes some time, I think, to get diagnosed with a chronic illness, like no matter which illness it is, because like initially you don't think
Mhm.
that okay, this is a chronic illness. You don't, nobody thinks
Mhm.
like that, even doctors don't think like that. And I think like everyone should know that we have already done all these things. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think most of us like explore every option that we have, no matter like
Exactly.
forget science, like because everyone has a hope that okay, maybe this thing will work for me, and then we
Mhm.
try everything out, and in the end like we know that okay, this thing didn't work out for me. So like when we say that okay, like it doesn't work for me, like then you have to believe us. Like we have already
Yeah.
tried whatever you are saying, because like we also have a brain, like, and yeah, there are people around us also, they, like everyone has suggested all this and we have already tried all of it, like at least most of it, and even then we didn't have,
Mhm.
then yeah, I think like pushing, even like after that, like pushing that kind of thing, that okay, you might not have tried this or that, like yeah, it feels offensive, and like it's not appropriate to say some things like that, to someone with a
Mhm.
chronic illness. And even if you have to say it, like say it gently, or like just ask, be like, have
Yeah.
that kind of approach, that otherwise, like it's, yeah, I think it's kind of like it's insulting for us, that to like
Mhm. Mhm.
you think that okay, we might not have tried that or something like that.
Yeah. Or like Tanya said, like it suggests like that we're like lazy like
Yeah.
some way, and that's why we haven't like tried, or like we haven't explored like every possible thing. And I think another thing that needs to be changed, like with that stigma, is that like people with disabilities shouldn't have to explore every option. If they don't want to, then that's
Yeah.
okay. Like, and
Yeah.
if they don't want to try it, that's like totally like okay. And like we should be comfortable, like, and we should let people feel like comfortable with that option, and not like force that they need to be actively, again, like it goes back to like that, there's this like stigma or stereotype that people with disabilities should be doing something to change their disability, and that's like not the case. So yeah, I really like this conversation. I think it's something really important that needs to be talked
Yeah.
about.
And like related to that, like you said, like we shouldn't have to try everything. Like you said, like there
Mhm.
are people like online also, like they'll say they cured their disease with something like natural or something like that. Like yeah, like we
Mhm.
shouldn't have, like you shouldn't expect us to like do that. Like if I'm comfortable with like taking medications, or like taking certain drugs, and then like it's like my disease are under control, I feel comfortable. Like why should I do that? Like if I'm comfortable with
Mhm.
my condition, like I think like there's this stigma associated with medication also. Like you shouldn't use
Yeah,
medication to control your disease. Like go as much
yeah,
natural as you can. And
yeah,
like I don't understand this. Like whenever someone tells me this, nah, like my like first response is like most medications are plant derived. I don't know. Like most medications, like it's not like it's like something like a lot of
alien
medications like have
substance
like
or
origins in nature only, like it's just like more concentrated kind of thing. So like, and it's not like your natural things can't give like illnesses. Like even right now in India, in the pandemic, like people were like going crazy about having like this kadas, like this immunity booster drinks and everything. And right now like doctors are seeing cases of like liver and kidney failure because of like excessive consumption of all this like natural boosted immunity boosting things. So like it's like I don't know why
oh yeah,
like this stigma with medication, like taking drugs, and like I don't know why, like why they think like it's very toxic and harmful, and like if it's controlling my disease, then like why not, like, and why should I like go
yeah,
out of like why should I put all that effort in like trying something which might like like which might make me worse also. Like you do not have a guarantee that
mhm,
trying these things will like make me better, or like I'll be stable. Like it might lead like to worsening of my condition.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I see that happen a lot with oh my gosh, what is it? Just off my train of thought too. It's contagious. Wait, Tanya, go ahead. I don't know if you were saying something.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that it I think I've forgotten as well.
Medication.
Medication, yeah. You
Yeah,
wouldn't tell someone who's not disabled how to live their life. Like you wouldn't just go up
exactly.
to random people and be like, do this, do that, don't do that. So it's like it doesn't mean you're entitled to do it to us. And also people don't understand that like some people can't afford it. Financially it's not viable. Geographically, maybe where they live, it's not viable. There's so many factors which play into it, and people don't have to tell you, and people don't want to tell you, maybe something stopping them from getting specific treatment or support. And like, we're not obligated to tell anyone. Like, it doesn't mean that we then need to like justify it. So the same way, like, you wouldn't the same way people say, like, don't just make assumptions of someone, you know, someone, for example, who may be overweight, they might have underactive thyroid or something like that. It's the same as
Mhm.
in, like, you know, we're doing our best with what we have, but it's not like money grows on trees for us and that. Like, we have like all the doctors around us, like, willing to help us. Like, it doesn't work like
Mhm. Yeah.
Let's coin a word like illness shaming or something like that.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Also, I totally just remembered what I was gonna say. I was gonna talk about supplements, how much I really don't like when people tell me that I need to take these supplements. And the fact of the matter is it's also not healthy for people
Mhm.
who are like non-disabled. Like that is something that, you should be communicating with your doctor and not just taking like supplements like whatever, like as if like it's like some like little dessert after every meal, just take 20 supplements. So I think that needs to be changed at all, like change a lot, like in the conversation of health is that like it should be a collaboration between like the doctor and the patient and then those around them, but it shouldn't be something that like you push onto others or something. Yeah, actually I'll just leave it that's that, like it should be something that you push onto others, and if something works for you, like great, and like if it doesn't, like also great. And I guess that's another thing too, like if a medication doesn't or some like treatment doesn't work for you but it works for someone else, like sometimes I will also see that, like, oh, like that, I think that's where it comes from, is that someone will get like so like some sort of treatment done and have some sort of adverse effect, but for someone else it works perfectly, and then that person will like push that like it's like this horrible thing and that doesn't work, and it's horrible that that happened to them. But I think that needs to change too. It's like if it works for someone, then we should just leave it like that. Like for example, I tried like the liquid diet for Crohn's disease and it actually made me worse. And so when I hear other people talk, with IBD, talk about how beneficial that was for them, I don't go out of my way and, say things like, no, you know what, that actually is horrible and you shouldn't be doing that because it didn't work for me.
yeah, like like said it right. Like I think like medical decisions are like the patient and doctor. Like, like
Hmm.
they are having a discussion. Like they have the doctor. Like just best leave it to them. And I think like yeah, like even about supplements, like even like with my doctor, like my doctor will tell me to take supplements, and I won't. Like I just don't want to take supplements. Like I'll take some supplements, I won't take some. So like the doctor is not judging me. Like why are you judging me like on what I
Yeah.
take and what I don't take? Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I mean, kind of the last thing I'd want to say, like after this conversation, is just that let us do what we want. No one wants to help us more than we want to help ourselves. Um, and we're doing everything we can. And even if we're not, we're happy with, like, we're obviously content with the way we're dealing with our health. And like we are also learning about our bodies. Like it takes us time and kind of trial and error to understand what works for us and what doesn't. So the last thing we need is like people giving that unsolicited advice. Just let us, let us do what we're doing. As much as you want to support us, that isn't support.
Yeah, exactly. I think the biggest takeaway like from this conversation is that people deserve the right to be autonomous,
Mhm.
and that people deserve the right to make their own choices regardless of whether like regardless of their if they identify as disabled or non-disabled, and we should be comfortable with letting other people be autonomous. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And like I think like what we're saying about like stigma and stereotypes, and yeah, like just even like for general, not just for like disabled people and people with chronic illnesses, just don't assume that like these people have to behave like a certain kind of way.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
even when it comes to advice, like I'll welcome if you have a discussion with me about my illness instead of just like
Yeah.
Mhm.
barraging me with advice and like information like that I know like is not gonna work for me, or like yeah, just like assumption. Instead of like doing that, like have a discussion with me if you want to know more about like before giving that kind of advice. Like just know what I'm dealing, like what I'm dealing with. And I think yeah, that's like for me that's what I want from people. Like even if you know like don't know anything or can't do anything, just like have a discussion with me instead of like just telling me what to do or what to not do, or like just judging what I can do, what I can do, what I should do, what I shouldn't do. It's
Mhm.
like talk to me, like just
Yeah.
talk. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, talk to me. I like that.
Yeah. Okay, then like I think this is a good point to end today. Yeah. So, and like next time we'll be talking about like things like specific to Indian culture. I think that'll be going
Can't
to be
wait.
another interesting discussion. So, like, we'll post about that later. And yeah, thank you,
Mhm.
Natalie, for joining us in this discussion.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, uh, it was really good talking to you. And like, yeah, like, I think like you see a lot of good things like about these issues, and I'm like really glad you could join us.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm happy to.
Yeah. Okay, then. Yeah, just goodbye.
Bye.
Ending this
Bye.
like bye everyone.